Actually, my first rabbit that I had as an adult and a parent was the suggestion of my oldest daughter, Melissa, who was, I think, about 12 at the time. She was asking me if she could have a rabbit, and at first I actually did not want to have a rabbit because I knew that she wasn't quite mature enough to handle the responsibilities of it. But after a spell of time, I gave in and fell in love with her immediately. Melissa named her Acute after one of her characters that she draws, and I just fell in love with her. And unfortunately, we lost her at only a year old, and I was so devastated by it and what did we do wrong and all of this that I wanted to learn more about them.
Yeah, we got a good range here, and this is why I like to work in here, where I'm at right now. You see dogs, cats, and me personally, I see dogs, cats, snakes, turtles, rabbits, guinea pigs, ferrets. Occasional frog comes in, birds, plethora of birds. So we see a good mix of things while we're here, and that's what I was looking forward to do once I got into this profession. About 15%, 10 to 15% would be rabbits.
So therefore, it's only been about 20 years, actually, that people have been bringing rabbits indoors as part of their family. And before then, most people would only keep rabbits in outside hutches. They're so sensitive and really should never be outside in freezing temperatures, and also nothing 90 or above temperature-wise in the summer. One big misconception is that rabbits like to be held and snuggled and carried around like a little doll, which people will often get them for young children. Rabbits are very skittish. They're prey animals. When they cannot feel the ground, that gives them a great sense of fear. Often rabbits are carried away by large birds, and that is a big fear of them. So really, it's best for them to remain on the ground and that you interact and play with them on the ground.
For me, when I always have a conversation with my rabbit owners, definitely new rabbit owners, because they always come with a lot of questions, and I encourage it. For me, it's knowing when to know when my rabbit's sick, and it's not an easy thing. So how I explain is that rabbits are actually prey animals. They know that there can be a hawk flying around, a wolf behind a bush somewhere, or some sort of animal that wants to eat them. So they have to really hide their illnesses so they don't show themselves as being weak, so that that hawk that's circling around is like, oh, I see that one, he's limping or he's looking ill, I'm going to attack him. So they are very good at masking their illnesses, to the point where they can get really, really sick really quickly without us even knowing. And so it makes life difficult for the owners and for us, because we can't get them in soon enough because they don't show that they're sick. So for me, I always say the number one thing is to know is how much is your rabbit poop, because like I said, they're poop factories. They're always supposed to be pooping, churning out poop. I'm not saying you need to count how many poops they have, but at least know, yeah, he always produces this amount, this good handful. And if you notice that the poop is getting decreased, or he's not pooping as much, or you notice that, usually he's about halfway through his hay through this time of the day and he's not, that's something, and he could be acting totally normal. That's what I would say. That's the first thing that would indicate there's something going on. Call your local vet and get them checked out. That's something to definitely look for, because that's what you're going to notice first before you say, oh, he's acting lethargic, or he doesn't want to move, or this or that. You're going to notice his poop not being as frequent or him not eating as much, and that's when you should bring him in, even if he's acting totally fine.
When I was caring for rabbits on a local farm that were outside in poor conditions, I had a connection with them and just how sweet they really are and how they really did just want to be loved. And I saw rabbits that were very sad and not really social get to the point where when I came to see them, they were running around in circles in their cage and showing so much excitement and happiness that I really realized, like, wow, if they're treated the right way, they really can heal, and you see the change in them, and you really realize, that they become depressed and that they're really very happy, loving animals. And to make a difference like that helped me a lot in many ways. Just, in my own head, it was very calming, it was very rewarding, and I just came to understand them and see the differences in their personalities, just like a dog or a cat. And I just really became very curious about the different breeds and how they did act differently, what were the different qualities of each breed, and how they interact with people.
The number one thing we see rabbits for, that we see them come in, number one complaint is that they're not eating or they're not pooping. And these guys are supposed to be poop factories. They're supposed to be eating food and pooping at the same time, basically. So we see them most times for that. That's not the sole reason why they're sick. Usually there's something else that's going on that makes them want to start not eat, or not to eat and not poop. And so the number one reason that we see that they do that is their teeth. So a lot of teeth issues is what we see because of that. And in turn, the reason for those teeth issues is that they aren't fed correctly. So it's really diet-centric when it comes to the reasons why we see them being sick. Diet is probably the most important thing that I feel owners don't get a good grasp on, but they don't understand the importance of it. So hay is the number one thing you should be feeding your rabbit. If anything, they can probably survive solely on hay with a few other greens and things mixed in. And the hay is what makes them want to chew a lot, keeps their teeth nice and healthy, and it also fuels their GI tract to keep them nice and happy, keep the bacteria that helps break down those hay fibers happy, so that you don't get an influx of bad bacteria that can cause havoc. So if you mess up and don't feed them the right foods from the get-go, you're going to have a sick bunny pretty quickly. Carrots have a lot of sugar in it. It's not their, they can eat it very easily, so it's not going to do much for their teeth. So mixing it in is not a problem, but it should not be a sole thing. And not every rabbit likes carrots. They can eat a whole bunch of greens. They like peppers. They like strawberries. They like parsley, basil, as well as the hay. So they can have a slew of other things that are not just carrots.
How we treat it, as far as when we do have them as a pet, and the respect that we have for them. The love and attention towards us is very different than a dog and a cat. It's not as obvious. You have to know how to see it, and you have to know how to read, even though they make very little noise or sound. There are some sounds that they do make, even though they're very subtle. It's very much in their actions and their body language as well. They're loving, they're funny as all hell. If they have a lot of room to jump around, they jump and flip and kick and interact with other domestic animals and, show love, and they love to jump on you if you lay down and to play with them. That's kind of how they bond with you. I think people also tend to purchase them at Easter time as gifts for their children, and this is really when this impulse buying happens, and when people do get them just because it's such a cute thing and it evokes a really great reaction out of their children, and they're really not looking at what goes into it. And oftentimes than not, this is when they are most often relinquished after a short amount of time and the novelty wears off. So that's something I really discourage wholeheartedly.
Easter is a big season for baby bunnies, and not a fan of it, just because we know that they're getting it for their 5-year-old child who just knows that there's an Easter bunny and there's candy involved and they just want a cute baby bunny, and it is impulse buy without getting prior information on the care and what you need and what's required for the appropriate care and husbandry for these guys. So, but you know, if they do it and they're committed, they can come in. We're happy to educate them with all they need so that that bunny can get the appropriate care. But we do see a lot during that time. I think definitely starting off with a dog or a cat and just making sure that your child is responsible to take your dog out for a walk or feed them by the appropriate times and clean up after them as far as the litter box or if they have an accident. So just kind of knowing that they're more responsible because, you know, a dog and a cat, they're not as fragile as a rabbit could be. You know, they can be easily damaged and hurt, and they do require a little bit more care, a little more cleanup, and, you know, it can be very frustrating, and the rabbit's not staying still, he's running away, he's jumping, he's kicking, and so if you give that to a child who's never had a pet before, has never handled or cared for one, they may get turned off pretty quickly and says, oh, I don't want this thing anymore, and you're either stuck with it or you have stuck finding a home for it and things like that. So I would say there's no number I could say is appropriate age because some children are very, very you know, responsible at 5, 6, 7 years of age. Some you got to wait until they're in their teens. So we're talking, you know, 13, 14 years of age.
It has just been a continually just learning day after day, week after week, year after year. Just when I think I know so much about rabbits, I learn something new all the time.